Close your eyes for a moment and imagine towers rising against the sky, bridges flowing like rivers of steel, homes that breathe with light. This is architecture not just to be seen but to be felt. In this series, we don't rely on images. We rely on sound, on stories that carry you through the minds of the world's greatest architects. Because true architecture lives in ideas, and ideas need no walls to exist. Ready to experience architecture in a way you've never heard before? Let's begin. Welcome to UrbArchitect, where we explore the visionaries who have defined our built environment. Today, we journey into the world of an architect who became synonymous with a color, a philosophy, and an unwavering belief in the power of rational beauty. His name is Richard Meier, and for over half a century, he has been the high priest of architectural purity, a master composer who wielded light and geometry with the precision of a sculptor, all while cloaking his buildings in a radiant, iconic white. In an era that has swung from the messy vitality of postmodernism to the dizzying spectacle of parametricism, Meier's work stands as a monumental testament to the enduring potential of a disciplined, enlightened modernism. To understand Richard Meier is to understand a fundamental strand of the American architectural psyche, the optimistic belief that through order, clarity, and light, we can create spaces that elevate the human spirit. Our story begins not in a studio, but in the industrial city of Newark, New Jersey, where Meier was born in 1934. Growing up in this dense, textured urban environment, he developed an early fascination with the way things were put together, often spending time in his father's hardware store, a place that functioned as a vernacular museum of materials, joints, and fasteners. This tactile upbringing was complemented by frequent trips into New York City, where the soaring steel and glass cliffs of the emerging international style captured his young imagination. He witnessed the construction of the seminal modern projects that would define the mid-century, and something in their bold, unadorned logic resonated deeply. This budding passion led him to the architecture program at Cornell University, a department then deeply influenced by the Bauhaus principles imported by European émigrés. At Cornell, Meier was immersed in the rigorous language of modernism, the structural honesty, the functional expression, the primacy of space over ornament. He learned to draw with an exquisite clarity that would become his trademark, and he absorbed the lessons of Le Corbusier, Mies van der Rohe, and Walter Gropius, not as historical artifacts, but as living, breathing principles for a new world. But his education didn't end in the lecture hall. After graduation, he embarked on the essential pilgrimage for any aspiring American architect of his generation, a prolonged tour of Europe. He didn't just sketch buildings, he experienced them. He stood in the luminous, otherworldly space of Le Corbusier's chapel at Ronchamp, felt the perfect proportions of a Palladian villa, and traced the ancient geometries of the Athenian Acropolis. These experiences were transformative, cementing his belief that architecture at its greatest was a spiritual endeavor, a manipulation of form and light to create transcendent emotional experiences. He returned to the United States armed with this classical modern synthesis, and after brief but formative stints in the offices of the great Marcel Breuer and later Davis, Brody and Wisniewski, he established his own practice in 1963. The architectural climate of the 1960s was one of ferment and change. Modernism, once a revolutionary force, was becoming the establishment, and its shortcomings, its perceived coldness, its urban failures, were coming under increasing criticism. It was in this context that Meier, along with four other brilliant, like-minded New York architects, Peter Eisenman, Michael Graves, Charles Gwathmey, and John Hedgeduke, came to be known as the New York Five or the Whites, a direct contrast to Robert Venturi's Greys, who were championing a more contextual, symbolic, and populist architecture. The Five, through their writings and their work, passionately argued for a reinvigoration of the early modernist language, specifically the Corbusian vocabulary of the 1920s. They believed that the original power of modernism had been diluted by corporate compromise, and they sought to return to its pure, formal roots. This was more than an academic debate. It was a battle for the soul of architecture's future. Meier emerged from this group as the one who most faithfully and prolifically continued to explore and refine this purified language, never succumbing to the historical references and bright colors that would come to define the work of his peers like Graves. His commitment was to whiteness not as a mere style but as a profound philosophical stance. For Meier, white was the color of perfection, of clarity, of eternity, It was the ideal canvas upon which the ever-changing drama of light and shadow could play out. It represented a moral purity, a refusal of the messy compromises of the world. It was, in his words, the most wonderful color because within it you can see all the colors of the rainbow. The whiteness also served a deeply practical purpose in his phenomenological goals. A white surface is the most sensitive receptor of light. It can capture the soft pink of dawn, the sharp blue of a clear sky, the warm gold of sunset, and the silvery cool of moonlight. By painting his buildings white, Meier was essentially turning them into giant light-capturing devices, ensuring that they would never look the same from one moment to the next. This philosophical foundation found its first magnificent expressions in a series of houses that are now canonical in architectural education. The Smith House in Darien, Connecticut, completed in 1967, was his breakthrough. For a young family, Meier created a stunning composition that established what would become his signature moves. The site was wooded and sloped toward the Long Island Sound. Meier positioned the house as a stark, white geometric form that stood in dramatic contrast to the natural, organic setting. The public facade facing the road is relatively closed and private, a wall of vertical cedar siding, while the rear facade facing the water is a breathtaking, fully glazed curtain wall, a transparent membrane that dissolves the boundary between interior and exterior. The plan is a masterful interplay of served and servant spaces, with a monumental 3-story white-painted brick chimney mass anchoring the composition and containing the vertical circulation. The experience of moving through the Smith House is a lesson in architectural promenade. You enter from the opaque side into a compressed, intimate space, then are drawn through the house, with views carefully framed by the architecture, until you emerge into the breathtaking, light-filled double-height living room that opens completely to the landscape and water beyond. It is a narrative of compression and release, of privacy and exposure, all orchestrated through a rigorous geometric order. Every detail, from the custom-designed stainless steel handrails to the precise reveals between walls and ceilings, speaks of an obsession with craft and clarity. This was followed by another residential masterpiece, the Douglas House in Harbor Springs, Michigan, completed in 1973. If the Smith House engaged a gentle slope, the Douglas House tackled a dramatic, densely wooded cliffside site overlooking Lake Michigan. The challenge was access. The only approach was from the water below. Meier's solution was audacious. He designed the house as a white ship-like form that seems to be launched from the top of the cliff. To reach it, one must climb a long, steep, wooden stairway from the lake, making the approach a ritualistic ascent. The house itself is a reverse of the Smith House. The public, transparent facade faces the approach and the stunning view, while the private, solid facade faces the road at the top of the cliff. The main living level is elevated on pilotis, creating a sense of floating above the trees. The iconic, bright white volumes, with their crisp edges and interlocking planes, create a stunning juxtaposition against the deep green of the forest and the blue of the lake. The Douglas House is not a building that tries to blend in. It is an object of sublime beauty, a human-made landmark that celebrates its own constructedness and its dialogue with the powerful natural site. It announced Meier as an architect capable of creating truly heroic domestic spaces. These early houses established his grammar: the white enameled panels and metal rails, the ramps and stairs treated as sculptural elements, the strategic use of primary colored elements, often blue or red, to accentuate certain parts of the composition, the complex interweaving of rectilinear volumes, and above all, the masterful control of natural light. Light, for Meier, is not just illumination, it is a building material. He uses it to define space, to highlight textures, to create rhythm and pattern. He designs louvers, screens, and deep reveals to filter and shape sunlight, transforming it into a dynamic, ever-changing presence within his static white forms. His work is a direct descendant of Le Corbusier's architectural promenade, where the movement of the body through a sequenced, light-filled space is the primary architectural experience. With this residential language firmly established, Meier began to receive commissions for larger public institutions, where he could apply his philosophy on an urban scale. The Athenaeum in New Harmony, Indiana, completed in 1979, was a pivotal project. It served as a visitor's center for a historic utopian community, and Meier's design is a complex, multi-layered composition that guides visitors through a narrative of the town's history. The building is a collage of ramps, towers, and galleries, all painted his signature white. The approach is carefully choreographed, with the building revealing itself gradually as one moves through the landscape. The Athenaeum demonstrated Meier's ability to handle historical context, not by mimicking old forms, but by creating a contemporary object that engages in a respectful yet confident dialogue with the past. Its success led to even more significant museum commissions. The High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Georgia, completed in 1983, was a landmark not just for Meier but for American cultural architecture. It was one of the first major American museums designed by an architect of the White School, and its arrival on the cultural scene was a powerful statement. The design is a masterpiece of clarity and light. A grand four-story ramp, a clear homage to Le Corbusier's Villa Savoy, spirals up through a central skylit atrium, serving as the primary organizing element. Visitors are taken on a vertical journey through the art, with natural light flooding down from the vast, square skylight above, illuminating the pristine white walls. The facade is a composition of square and circular forms, with the iconic porthole windows becoming a trademark of the building. The High Museum was celebrated for its luminous, neutral galleries that provided an ideal backdrop for viewing art, and it cemented Meier's reputation as America's leading architect for museums. But the commission that would define his career, a project of staggering scale, complexity, and ambition, was the Getty Center in Los Angeles. Awarded in 1984 after a fiercely competitive international contest, the Getty would consume Meier and his office for the next 14 years. The site was a monumental challenge, a 110-acre hilltop in the Santa Monica Mountains, overlooking the vast expanse of Los Angeles. The program was equally vast: a museum, a research institute, a conservation program, and grant administration offices, all requiring separate identities yet needing to function as a cohesive whole. Meier's solution was a campus-like arrangement of 6 principal buildings, organized along a natural canyon and unified by a consistent material palette that marked a significant departure from his all-white dogma. After extensive research, he chose 2 primary materials: travertine stone from Italy and boldly profiled aluminum panels. The travertine, warm and ancient, grounds the complex in the earth and provides a textural richness, while the white-painted metal recalls his earlier work and reflects the brilliant California light. The design process was an epic of modern architecture, involving hundreds of people, countless models, and relentless attention to detail. The buildings are arranged along a curving axis, with the rival at the top of the hill. Visitors take a computer-controlled tram up the hillside, a journey that builds anticipation. Once at the top, they discover a world of courtyards, gardens, and terraces, all with breathtaking views. The circulation is a complex but intuitive system of axes, courtyards, and galleries, culminating in the museum's skylit rooms. The central garden, designed by artist Robert Irwin, provides a lush, organic counterpoint to Meier's rigorous geometry. The cost ballooned to nearly $1 billion, making it the most expensive architectural project of its time, a fact that drew significant public scrutiny and criticism. Was it an elitist citadel, a fortress of culture isolated from the city? Or was it a generous gift to the public, a place of contemplation and beauty? The debate continues, but there is no denying the Getty's achievement. It is a city in miniature, a testament to the power of a single coherent vision executed on a grand scale. It represents the apex of Meier's philosophical and formal exploration. While the Getty was underway, Meier was also working internationally, exporting his brand of American modernism to Europe. The Barcelona Museum of Contemporary Art MACBA, completed in 1995, is a brilliant example of his urban strategy. Situated in the historic El Raval district, the museum had to engage with a dense, chaotic medieval street pattern. Meier's response was to create a bold, minimalist volume that cleanses the urban palette. The main facade is a soaring, graceful curve of glass and white enameled steel, facing a large new public plaza that the museum itself created. This plaza has become one of the most vibrant public spaces in Barcelona, a testament to the power of a strong architectural gesture to regenerate its urban context. Inside, the galleries are toplit with natural light, providing ideal conditions for viewing contemporary art. MACBA proved that Meier's architecture, often criticized as aloof, could indeed be a powerful catalyst for urban life and community. Another significant European project is the Jubilee Church, or Chiesa di Dio Padre Misericordioso in Rome, completed in 2003. This was a fascinating commission, as it required Meier to engage with the most sacred and historically laden of typologies in the most sacred of cities. His design is both respectful and radical. The church is defined by three soaring, curved walls of precast concrete, symbolizing the Holy Trinity. These massive, sail-like forms lean inward, defining the nave and filtering light into the worship space. Between them are vast walls of glass, connecting the congregation to the community outside. The primary material is white concrete, which acquires a beautiful luminous quality in the Roman light. The complex also includes a community center and apartments, forming a new social hub. The Jubilee Church demonstrates Meier's ability to infuse his rational, geometric language with profound symbolism and spiritual resonance, creating a space that feels both timeless and contemporary. However, the narrative of Richard Meier's illustrious career cannot be told without acknowledging the profound controversy that erupted in 2018, when multiple women accused him of sexual harassment. In the wake of these allegations, Meier stepped away from his practice, and his legacy was suddenly and severely complicated. The architectural world was forced to confront the difficult, age-old question of whether we can, or should, separate the art from the artist. This event cast a long shadow over his lifetime of achievement, reminding us that the pursuit of aesthetic purity in buildings does not necessarily equate to moral purity in life. It is a painful but essential part of his story, a stark lesson in the human failings that can exist behind even the most sublime creations. So, what is the enduring relevance of Richard Meier's work today? In our current architectural moment, characterized by a dizzying pluralism, digital fluidity, and a renewed concern for sustainability and social equity, Meier's unwavering white modernism can seem, to some, like a relic from a different age. His buildings are undeniably energy-intensive to maintain, and their perceived elitism remains a point of critique. Yet, his lessons are more valuable than ever. He teaches us about discipline. In a world of endless formal possibility, Meier's work is a masterclass in working within a strict, self-imposed set of rules to achieve incredible variety and sophistication. He teaches us about clarity of thought, of form, of space. His buildings are legible, understandable, and intellectually rigorous. They reject the arbitrary and the fashionable in favor of a deeper, more enduring order. Most importantly, he teaches us about the phenomenological power of architecture. His buildings are not just diagrams, they are experiences. The way light washes down a white wall, the framed view of a landscape, the feeling of ascending a ramp towards the sky. These are sensory, emotional moments that remind us of architecture's capacity to inspire and uplift. His work stands as a powerful argument for the value of beauty, order, and optimism in the built environment. Richard Meier's legacy, therefore, is complex and multifaceted. He is the architect who took the flame of early European modernism and carried it deep into the American century, refining it into a language of breathtaking power and consistency. He created some of the most photographically iconic buildings of our time, temples of light and reason that continue to inspire architects and captivate the public. His career is a testament to the power of a singular vision, but it is also a cautionary tale about the perils of celebrity and the complex relationship between personal conduct and professional achievement. To walk through one of his buildings is to understand that architecture at its best is not merely about shelter or style, but about creating a luminous, ordered framework for life, a stage where the daily drama of human existence is bathed in a light that feels somehow divine. He leaves behind a body of work that asks us to believe, if only for a moment, in the possibility of perfection. Thank you for watching UrbArchitect.